John had always thought of himself as an ordinary guy. A quiet life in a small town, a regular job, and the occasional evening walk to clear his mind. He never expected his life to change in such a strange way. But on one random afternoon, everything was about to shift. It was a crisp day, the kind where the sun was bright but the air still had a hint of chill. John was walking through the park, enjoying the calm of the morning. His mind was lost in thoughts about work, the usual mundane worries. But something unusual happened as he passed by a quiet, secluded spot near a bench. A woman was sitting there, alone, looking out at the lake. She seemed different. Not in a way that screamed alien, but there was something about her that drew him in. Her hair was long and dark, flowing gently in the breeze. She was dressed in a simple blue outfit that seemed out of place in the park, almost as if she didn't quite belong here. Her skin had a unique shade, subtle and smooth, almost glowing under the sunlight. John didn't know why, but he found himself walking towards her. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was just the sense that he had to speak to her. When he got closer, he hesitated. But she turned her head, her eyes locking with his, and for a moment it felt like the world had slowed down. "Hello," she said, her voice soft, but it wasn't spoken. It was in his mind. John froze. He blinked and stepped back, looking around as if to confirm he hadn't imagined it. There was no one else nearby. The park seemed quieter than usual, but when he turned back to her, she was still staring at him, her lips barely moving. Did you speak to me?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. She smiled, a calm, almost serene expression on her face. "I'm Zara. I didn't speak aloud. I spoke in your mind." John took another step back, his mind racing. "What do you mean? How is that possible?" Zara stood up, her gaze soft but intense. "I'm from far away, from a place you don't know. My kind can communicate telepathically. It's how we understand each other." John didn't know what to say. He looked at her, then quickly looked away, unsure how to process the strange feeling swirling inside him. It wasn't fear, exactly. It was something deeper. He couldn't quite explain it, but it felt like a connection was being formed between them, and it was powerful, almost magnetic. I don't understand," he said quietly, shaking his head. Zara took a step closer. She seemed to move gracefully, as if the air itself parted for her. "It's okay. You're not the first human I've met like this. It takes time to adjust to the bond." "The bond?" John repeated, now more confused than ever. Zara nodded, her eyes holding his with an intensity that made him feel like she was looking straight into his soul. "Yes, when a telepathic bond is formed, it is not just about communication. It's about connection. You might not feel it yet, but you will." John could hardly process what she was saying. Was he dreaming? Was this some kind of prank? No, it felt too real. He could feel the air around him, the ground beneath his feet, and yet there was something strange about her presence. It was as if the world itself bent around her. "I didn't ask for this," he said, more to himself than to her. "I didn't ask for any of this," Zara smiled gently. "You don't have to ask. It happens when it's meant to, and it's already begun." John felt his heart beat faster. He was confused, overwhelmed, and a bit scared. But there was something else, something undeniable. Every time he looked into Zara's eyes, it was like something inside him was pulled toward her. He couldn't explain it, but the more he tried to push it away, the stronger it became. "I don't know what you want from me," he said, taking a step back. "I just don't understand." Zara's expression softened even more. "You don't need to understand everything right away. Just know that we are now connected, John. You'll feel it soon, and I'll be here." Her words echoed in his mind, and as she spoke, something inside him shifted. He couldn't quite explain it, but his thoughts began to drift to her, even as she stood still. It wasn't just curiosity, it was more. He could feel her presence in his mind, like a whisper that he couldn't ignore. Her image lingered in his thoughts, as if her mind was already occupying a space in his. Zara took a step back, then turned to walk away. "This is only the beginning. You'll see me again soon." John stood there, frozen. His thoughts were a whirlwind filled with a strange mix of emotions. He wanted to understand what had just happened, Was he losing his mind? Or had something else happened, something beyond his understanding? As he walked home, he couldn't shake the feeling that Zara was still with him. Her words, her presence, seemed to follow him. His mind kept drifting back to her, and with each thought, the pull grew stronger. He couldn't stop thinking about her. The days seemed to blend together as John continued to adjust to the strange connection with Zara. It was hard to focus on anything else when her presence was constantly with him. At work, during meals, and even while he was sleeping, Zara's thoughts lingered in his mind like a soft whisper that wouldn't go away. He had never experienced anything like it before, and to be honest, it was both comforting and overwhelming. At the same time, one evening, after a long day at work, John sat on his couch, staring at the TV, but not really watching it. His mind was lost in thoughts of Zara. Her voice, soft and calm, seemed to echo in his head, as though she were right there with him. "You've been thinking about me again, haven't you?" Zara's voice appeared in his mind, gentle yet playful. John smiled despite himself, still amazed by the way she could invade his thoughts so easily. "I can't help it," he muttered aloud. "You're always in my head. Is that such a bad thing?" Zara responded, her tone light and teasing. "I don't mind being there. I'm happy to be with you, John." John's heart skipped a beat at her words. He had grown accustomed to hearing her voice, but something about this moment felt different. It was as though they were sharing something more than just thoughts now. There was an emotional connection building between them that he couldn't ignore. He leaned back against the couch, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know if I can keep up with this," he confessed. "It's like I can't escape the connection. Every time I try to focus on something else, you're there, in my thoughts." Zara was quiet for a moment, and for a second, John wondered if she had left him. But then her voice returned, softer than before. "You don't need to escape it, John. Our connection is natural. It's how we communicate, how we understand each other. It's not something you have to fight against." John sighed, his eyes dropping to the floor. "I know, but it's hard to tell if I'm thinking for myself anymore, or if it's just you. "I'm not trying to control your thoughts," Zara said. "You're still your own person. The connection doesn't change that. It just allows us to share our thoughts, to understand each other better." It was strange, hearing her say that. John had always prided himself on his independence. But now, with Zara in his mind, it felt like there was always someone else there. A part of him wanted to break free, to reclaim his own space, but another part of him welcomed the connection. It was as if Zara had become a part of him, woven into the fabric of his thoughts. "I'm just not sure how to handle it," John admitted. "It's like my mind is no longer my own." "It will take time," Zara replied gently. "The bond is strong, but it's not something to fear. It will become easier, I promise. We can learn to work together, to live with it." John closed his eyes, trying to understand what she meant. There was no denying that his feelings for her were growing stronger every day. He couldn't explain why, but he felt drawn to her, almost like there was no way to escape the bond they had formed. And as much as he tried to deny it, part of him didn't want to escape it. There was something beautiful about the idea of being so connected to someone, of sharing not just thoughts, but emotions and experiences. "Are you still afraid?" Zara asked, sensing his hesitation. "I don't know," John replied softly. "Maybe I'm afraid of losing myself in all of this. I don't want to stop being me." "You won't lose yourself," Zara reassured him. "I promise. The connection won't erase who you are. It's just that's an extension of you. We're both learning how to navigate this new reality together." John thought about her words for a moment. He wanted to believe her, but the fear still lingered. What if he lost control? What if their bond became too strong, and he couldn't separate his thoughts from hers? But as he sat there, deep in thought, he realized that something had already shifted. The more he thought about Zara, the more he realized that he didn't want to separate his thoughts from hers. There was a comfort in knowing she was always with him. She didn't feel like an intrusion, she felt like a part of him. And even though it was all new and overwhelming, it didn't feel wrong. "You're still uncertain," Zara observed, sensing his inner conflict. "But it's okay, there's..." No rush, you don't have to figure it all out now. Just trust that this bond is something special. John took a deep breath, his mind settling a little. I don't know what the future holds, he said quietly, but I'm starting to think that maybe I don't need to figure it out right away. Maybe I can just let it happen. That's all I ask, Zara said softly. Let it happen, John. Let it grow. And we'll figure out the rest together. For the first time in days, John felt a sense of peace. It wasn't a full understanding, but it was a beginning. The bond between him and Zara was still new, still strange, but there was something undeniable about it. And as much as he tried to fight it, he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't stop thinking about her. The days that followed felt strange. John couldn't get Zara out of his mind. He had tried to focus on his work, to carry on with his usual routine, but it was impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, her face appeared in his thoughts. Every time he tried to read a book or watch TV, her voice echoed in his mind. She hadn't said much the last time they met, but her words and the way she had looked at him stayed. With him, at first, John thought it was just his imagination. But soon he realized that it wasn't. Zara wasn't just a fleeting thought. She was always there, lingering in his mind. It felt like her presence was constantly near him. And the strangest thing was, he didn't mind it. One afternoon, as John was sitting in his apartment, staring out the window at the bustling city below, he felt a sudden rush of warmth spread through him. It wasn't from the sun, it was the familiar feeling of Zara's presence. His heart skipped a beat, and before he could stop himself, he whispered, Zara? Immediately, her voice responded, clear and calm in his mind. I'm here, John. His eyes widened in shock, and he jumped up from his seat. You single quotes you're really here? He asked aloud, his voice trembling. He could have sworn he heard her laugh softly, but it wasn't in the room with him. I never really left, Zara replied. You've been thinking about me constantly, haven't you? John froze. He had been thinking about her non-stop, but he didn't realize it was that obvious. I didn't mean to. It's just ... I don't know how to explain it. There's no need to explain, she said gently. It's a natural reaction. Our bond is becoming stronger. I can hear your thoughts more clearly now. John sat back down, his mind racing. He couldn't believe it. Every thought he had, every feeling, every moment of uncertainty was now shared with her. Was it normal to feel so ... exposed? And yet, even with all this vulnerability, he didn't feel afraid. There was something comforting about it, like he wasn't truly alone. I don't know how to handle this, he confessed, his voice quieter now. You don't need to handle it. Zara's voice soothed him. You just need to accept it. We are connected. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Our minds are linked, and as time passes, it will only grow stronger. John felt a strange sense of calm settle over him, even as confusion still clouded his thoughts. He wasn't sure how to feel about this new reality. Was this something he could learn to live with? And if so, how would it affect him? Could he really keep his own thoughts and feelings when they were shared with someone else, someone like Zara, who wasn't even from his world? Does it always feel like this? He asked, unsure what to expect. At first, yes, Zara replied. It's overwhelming, but it gets easier. Soon, you won't be so surprised by it. You'll get used to hearing me, just as I've already become accustomed to hearing you. The idea of always having someone in his mind, sharing his every thought, felt both thrilling and unsettling at the same time. But deep down, John couldn't ignore the part of him that welcomed the connection. There was something undeniably special about it. It felt like he had found a part of himself he didn't know was missing. Over the next few days, John's connection to Zara only deepened. He tried to carry on with his life, but the bond between them made it impossible to ignore her. She would speak to him telepathically at random moments, offering him comfort when he was stressed, or even sharing a laugh when he found something amusing. It was as if she was always there, just waiting for him to reach out. And the more he thought about it, the more John realized that Zara was becoming a part of his daily life. It wasn't just a passing moment anymore. It was real. One evening, as he was walking home after work, John found himself thinking about Zara again. This time, the thought wasn't so much a surprise. He had gotten used to her presence in his mind. But as he walked past a cafe, something unexpected happened. Zara's voice suddenly filled his thoughts with a soft whisper. "Look up." John immediately stopped and looked up at the sky. The sun had just set, and the stars were beginning to twinkle in the darkening sky. For a moment, he felt like he could sense Zara's gaze with him, even though she wasn't physically there. It was like she was standing beside him, sharing the moment. "What is it?" John asked, confused by her words. "Just look at the stars," Zara said. "I can feel the distance between us, but even from far away, the stars connect us. It's a reminder that no matter where we are, we're always linked." John's chest tightened as he gazed up at the stars. It felt true. Even though Zara was far away in a different world, her words and thoughts were still with him. And in that moment, as he stood beneath the vast sky, he felt an overwhelming sense of connection to her. He wasn't alone. Zara was always with him, whether he saw her or not, whether he spoke to her or not. As he continued walking home, John couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. The telepathic bond between him and Zara was not just a random encounter. It was something deeper, something he couldn't turn away from. The connection was real, and no matter what came next, John knew one thing for sure. He couldn't stop thinking about her. John's life continued, but it was far from the normal routine he used to follow. He had accepted Zara's presence in his mind, but each day seemed to blur into the next as their connection deepened. He still struggled with the constant stream of thoughts that came from her, but at the same time, he found comfort in it. There were moments when he could almost forget that they weren't physically together. Zara's voice was like a quiet hum in the back of his mind, always there, guiding him, offering comfort whenever he needed it. But as time passed, John realized something he hadn't expected. He wasn't the only one affected by their bond. Zara, too, seemed to be changing. She had told him that telepathic bonds often grew stronger with time, but John hadn't fully understood what that meant until now. One evening, as he was sitting in his apartment, a thought crossed his mind. It wasn't a question or a doubt, but a deep yearning. He missed Zara. He missed her in a way he hadn't thought possible for someone he had only met a few weeks ago. His mind had become so full of her that he couldn't imagine a day without her presence. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room. He hadn't expected to feel this way, and it was unsettling. The connection between them was growing deeper, and John realized it wasn't just her voice in his head anymore. It was as if her emotions were beginning to mix with his. He could feel her happiness, her sadness, even her uncertainty. It was like they were no longer two separate people, but part of a shared existence. "You're thinking about me again, aren't you?" Zara's voice interrupted his thoughts, and John froze. "I didn't mean to," he said, still pacing. "It's just it feels like you're always here, Zara, in my head, in my thoughts. I can't escape it." "You don't have to escape it," Zara replied softly. "You don't have to fight it either. This connection is a part of us now, John. It's not something you can just forget. And honestly, I don't want you to." John sighed, sitting down on the couch. He ran a hand through his hair. "But I don't know how to handle it. I can't separate my own feelings from yours anymore. I feel like I'm losing myself." Zara's presence was like a gentle breeze, soft and understanding. "You're not losing yourself, John. The connection doesn't take away from who you are. It only allows us to understand each other better, to share our thoughts, our feelings. John closed his eyes, trying to process her words. It was hard to separate his thoughts from hers, but perhaps that was the point. Maybe he wasn't supposed to separate them. Maybe for once it was okay to feel connected to someone else so deeply, but then the fear crept in again. What if this bond became too much? What if he lost himself completely, and there was no going back? "I don't want to lose myself, Zara," John said, his voice low. "I don't know how to handle all these feelings." "I understand," Zara replied. "It's not easy. I've never had a bond like this before either. But I want you to know that I'm not here to take anything away from you. I'm here to share with you, not control you. You are still you, and I I don't want to change that. Her words were like a balm to his troubled mind, and John felt his shoulders relax. Maybe. It was true. Maybe this bond wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace. It wasn't a loss of himself, it was the beginning of something new, something he had never expected to experience. You're right, he murmured. I'm just not used to this. I don't know how to share my thoughts like this, let alone feel someone else's emotions so clearly. It will take time, Zara said gently, but I believe we can navigate this together. There's no rush, you don't need to understand everything at once. Just trust the process. We're both learning. John nodded, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. He knew Zara was right. The bond was growing stronger, but it didn't have to be something to fear. It was simply a part of their shared experience. And the more he thought about it, the more he realized that he didn't want to push her away. I know this is difficult, Zara continued. But there's something I want you to understand, John. Our bond isn't just about the thoughts we share. It's about something deeper. It's about connection on a level that goes beyond communication. It's about truly understanding each other, even without words. John felt his heart skip a beat. The weight of her words settled into him, and for the first time, he allowed himself to really think about what their bond meant. It wasn't just the constant stream of thoughts or emotions. It was a deeper connection, one that went beyond the physical realm. It was something spiritual, something ancient. And he had never felt more connected to another person in his life. As the days passed, John began to see Zara in a new light. She wasn't just a voice in his head or a stranger he had met in a park. She was a part of him, and he was a part of her. Their bond was becoming something greater than either of them had expected, and despite the uncertainty, despite the fear that still lingered, John knew one thing for sure. He didn't want to let go. Not now, not ever. As the days passed, John found himself adjusting to his new reality. The connection with Zara had grown stronger, but instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt more at peace. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when the telepathic bond between them felt like a rush of emotions and thoughts that he couldn't control. But there were also moments when it felt natural, like breathing in and out. He no longer fought it. Instead, he began to accept it as part of his life. One afternoon, John was walking through the park again, the place where everything had started. The sun was high in the sky, and the air was warm. It felt like the perfect day to clear his mind. He sat on the same bench where he had met Zara, looking out at the lake. The peaceful setting was the same, but everything had changed for him. Are you thinking about me again? Zara's voice filled his mind, and he couldn't help but smile. He chuckled softly, glancing around as if she might be nearby. I'm not trying to. It just happens. I don't mind, Zara replied. I like being in your thoughts. It's comforting to me. John leaned back, letting the warmth of the sun soak into his skin. As much as the connection between them had frightened him at first, he now found it comforting. Zara's presence was always with him, and he no longer felt alone. There was something reassuring about knowing that someone, even from far away, understood him so deeply. But as much as he had grown to accept their bond, there was still something that bothered him. He hadn't asked Zara much about her own life. He didn't know where she was from, what her people were like, or what her true feelings about their connection were. All he knew was that she was kind, patient, and understanding. But there were times when he couldn't help but wonder what she was thinking, what her life was like beyond their bond. You're quiet, Zara said, sensing his thoughts. What's on your mind, John? John hesitated. He didn't want to seem too curious or intrusive, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was so much he didn't know about Zara. He wanted to understand her better. I've been wondering about you, he said slowly. Where do you come from? What's your world like? Zara was silent for a moment, and John felt a sense of uncertainty fill the space between them. For the first time, her thoughts felt distant. But then her voice returned, soft and thoughtful. I come from a distant planet far from Earth. My people are not like humans. We've evolved differently, but we share many things with your kind, like emotions and thoughts. Our species relies on telepathy to communicate, and it's how we form. Connections with others. John listened intently, his curiosity piqued. What's it like? He asked. Living in a place so different from Earth? Is it lonely? Zara's voice softened, as if she was choosing her words carefully. At times, yes, but we learn to live with it. We are not born with the same need for physical touch or companionship that humans are. Our connections are more mental, more emotional. But that doesn't mean we don't feel loneliness. We do, just like you. John thought about her words. He had always thought of loneliness as something that only humans felt. It was strange to think that Zara, someone so distant from him, might feel the same way. So, you've always been alone? He asked, his voice quiet. Not always, Zara replied, but I've been alone for a long time now. My people sent me on a mission to learn about your species, to see if we could form a peaceful relationship. And then I met you. I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't expect to form a bond with you, John. John's heart skipped a beat as he absorbed her words. She hadn't expected this bond, the same way he hadn't. It was almost as if fate had decided that their lives were meant to be intertwined, even though they had never asked for it. The thought made him feel both anxious and relieved at the same time. So what happens now? John asked. He had to know what Zara saw in the future for them. Was this connection temporary? Or was it something that would last, something that would change the course of both their lives? I don't know, Zara admitted. I don't know what the future holds. But I do know that I don't want to lose this connection, John. I don't want to lose you. Her words hit him like a wave, and John felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. He hadn't realized how much he needed to hear that until now. Zara didn't want to lose him. The bond between them was real, and it wasn't going anywhere. And for the first time in weeks, John felt a deep sense of peace settle within him. Maybe he didn't know exactly what would happen next, but he knew one thing. He didn't want to walk away from Zara. I don't want to lose you either, John whispered, more to himself than to her. I don't know what this means, but I'm not ready to walk away either. There was a long pause, and then Zara's voice filled his mind again, softer this time, full of warmth and affection. Then we'll take this one step at a time, together. John smiled, feeling a sense of relief flood his body. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy, but Zara's words gave him the strength to face whatever came next. They were in this together, even if they didn't know what the future held. And for now, that was enough. Days turned into weeks, and John found himself more and more connected to Zara. The bond they shared, once strange and overwhelming, now felt like a part of his everyday life. He had started to embrace her. Her voice in his mind no longer felt like an invasion, but a comfort, a constant presence he never wanted to lose. However, as their connection grew stronger, so did the realization that it wasn't just his thoughts that Zara could hear. The emotional weight of their bond had become undeniable. John began to sense Zara's feelings as clearly as his own. Her moments of joy, her fears, her doubts, they all flowed through him. And though he had once feared this, he now found himself seeking it. It was like she had become a part of him, and he was learning to accept that. But despite the closeness they shared, John still hadn't fully understood the full extent of their bond. It was one thing to hear Zara's thoughts, to feel her emotions, but what did this connection truly mean? Where was it leading? One night, as he sat by the window, gazing at the stars above, he found himself lost in thought. The quiet of the evening should have been peaceful, but his mind was filled with questions, doubts that had been growing inside him for days. What if he couldn't handle the depth of this connection? What if Zara's presence in his mind was changing him in ways he couldn't understand? Are you thinking again? Zara's voice gently broke into his thoughts, and John's heart skipped a beat. He smiled, not surprised to hear her, even though he hadn't called out to her. I can't help it. My mind just keeps racing. What's bothering you? Zara asked, her tone soft and understanding. John hesitated for a moment, unsure how to voice his concerns. I don't know where this is going, Zara. I don't know what we're doing. Zara was silent for a moment, and John felt a strange wave of sadness wash over him. But then her voice returned, calm and thoughtful. I understand. John, I think about that too. We formed a bond, yes, but that doesn't mean we have all the answers. We don't know what the future holds, but I don't want that to make you afraid. John's chest tightened as he listened to her. I'm not afraid, he said, his voice soft. I'm just not sure if I can keep up with this. What happens when the bond gets even stronger? What if I can't separate my thoughts from yours? What if it changes who I am? You're not losing yourself, Zara reassured him. The bond is a part of you, but it doesn't erase you. It only connects us in a deeper way. You'll always be yourself, John. You'll always be you, even with this connection. John closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. Zara's words were comforting. But part of him still felt uncertain. What if this was all too much? What if he couldn't handle the intensity of the connection, the way their lives were becoming so intertwined? But then he realized something. The fear he felt wasn't about losing himself. It was about losing her. The thought of Zara being out of his life, even in the slightest way, made him feel empty. He didn't want to lose the connection they had built, and he didn't want her to leave his mind. I don't want to lose you, John whispered, his heart heavy with emotion. You won't lose me, Zara responded, her voice full of warmth. I'm not going anywhere, John. You're not getting rid of me that easily. John laughed softly at her words. Feeling the tension in his chest ease just a little. Zara always knew exactly what to say, even without physical presence. It was one of the things that drew him to her, the way she could understand him without him having to say a word. They sat in silence for a while, their connection steady and comforting. The world outside continued as usual, but for John, everything had shifted. There was no going back now. He had crossed a line by opening himself up to Zara, and he realized now that he didn't want to go back. He wanted this connection, even if it was scary at times. Zara spoke again, her tone gentle but filled with something like hope. I don't want to pressure you, John, but I want you to know that this bond isn't just something we have to deal with. It's something we can embrace. It can help us understand each other in ways nothing else can. I'm not asking you to have all the answers, just to trust that we're in this together. John felt a surge of emotion, a wave of warmth that filled his chest. He hadn't realized how much he needed to hear that. He had been trying to figure it all out on his own, thinking that he had to have everything figured out before he could truly embrace their bond. But Zara was right. He didn't have to know everything. He just had to trust. And that was enough. I trust you, John said quietly, his voice steady. I don't know what this will look like in the future, but I trust you. And I trust us. There was a long pause, and for the first time, John felt a true sense of peace. The fear that had been weighing him down was gone, replaced by a quiet understanding. Zara had never asked him to have all the answers. She had never demanded anything from him. She had simply offered him a connection, one that was real and unbreakable. We'll figure it out together, Zara said softly, her voice full of love. One step at a time, John. We'll take it slow and we'll navigate this bond together. There's no rush, and in that moment, John knew that no matter where this journey took them, he wasn't alone. He had Zara, and that was all that mattered. The future was uncertain, but their bond was real. And for the first time in a long while, John felt a sense of calm wash over him. He didn't have all the answers, but he didn't need them. Not as long as he had Zara by his side. The days that followed felt like a new chapter in John's life. One that he couldn't have predicted, yet one he had come to accept. The bond with Zara had only grown stronger, and now it felt like they were two halves of a whole. They shared their thoughts, their feelings, their fears. There was no hiding from it anymore, and strangely John had grown to welcome it. He was no longer trying to control his thoughts or shut Zara out. The fear that had once held him back had faded, replaced with a trust he hadn't known was possible. They had become more than just two people with a connection. They had become partners in this strange new reality, and in a way it felt like the most natural thing in the world. But as their bond deepened, John couldn't help but wonder where it would lead. There was still so much he didn't know about Zara, about her world, and about the future of their relationship. The questions lingered in his mind, but they no longer filled him with anxiety. He knew he didn't need to have all the answers. They would find their way together. One evening, John found himself walking through the city again. The streets were quieter now, and the stars above shone brightly. It was a peaceful night, but John's thoughts were far from calm. There was something on his mind that had been bothering him for a while. As much as he had embraced their bond, there was still a part of him that longed to understand Zara's world better. He couldn't help but feel like there was something more to her than what she had shared so far. "What's on your mind?" Zara's voice interrupted his thoughts, and John smiled softly. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice thoughtful. "I don't know much about you, Zara. I know about your telepathic abilities and the bond we share, but what about your world? What about you?" Zara was silent for a moment, and John felt a flicker of hesitation in her thoughts. He wondered if he had asked too much too soon, but then her voice returned, calm and steady. "I understand, John. I've been meaning to tell you more about my world, but it's hard to put into words. My people live in a place far from Earth, a place where we've learned to live without the physical bonds that humans depend on. We rely on our minds to connect, to communicate. It's how we build relationships, form bonds. But it's also why we're so different." John listened carefully, absorbing her words. "Is it lonely, being so far from home, from your people?" Zara's thoughts seemed to soften, and John could almost feel her emotions shift. "At times, yes. It's difficult to be away from my world, from the people I care about. But the bond I share with you, John, it's different. I didn't expect it to feel so real, so powerful. And in a way, it has made me feel less alone. You make me feel like I belong somewhere again." John felt a warmth spread through him at her words. He had never expected to be the one to offer that kind of comfort to someone like Zara, but as he thought about it, he realized that their connection had brought something unexpected into his life as well. He no longer felt the same loneliness he had before meeting her. Even though she wasn't physically beside him, Zara's presence had filled a space inside him that he hadn't even known was empty. "I don't want to lose this," John said. Quietly, "I don't want to lose you, Zara." "You won't," Zara replied softly. "I promise you, John, I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, the world around them seemed to disappear. There was no city, no noise, just the quiet comfort of their connection. John didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, he knew that he didn't need to worry. He and Zara would face whatever came together, and that was enough. The next few days felt like a turning point in their relationship. John began to open up more, sharing his thoughts and fears with Zara without hesitation. And as they continued to talk, to share, he realized something important. The bond they shared wasn't just a connection between their minds. It was a connection between their hearts. One evening, Zara spoke again, her voice filled with something almost like excitement. "John, I've been thinking. I don't know how much longer I'll be on Earth. My mission here might not last forever, but I want you to know that no matter what happens, this bond will remain. We've built something real here." John felt a lump form in his throat. "I don't want you to leave," he said, his voice strained. "I don't want this to end." "It doesn't have to end," Zara replied, her voice soothing. "Our connection won't be broken, even if we're separated. We'll find a way to make this work." "We always do, John. You're not alone in this." Her words were a promise, and John believed them. They had already come so far together. Whatever happened next, he knew that he didn't have to face it alone. The following weeks were filled with moments of quiet understanding. John and Zara continued to share their thoughts, their lives, and their hopes for the future. Their bond had become more than just a connection. It had become the foundation of something deeper, something neither of them could have predicted. And as the days passed, John realized that he no longer needed to question where this was going. He didn't need to understand everything. All that mattered was that they were together, and that their bond was something real. The future was still uncertain. But one thing was clear: whatever challenges lay ahead, John and Zara would face. Then together, they had built something strong, something unbreakable. And for the first time in a long time, John felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be.